The theme of today's lesson is a very brief guide to the history of the English language. Early beginnings. Before 100 BC, Britain was populated by a mixture of tribes, including the Celts, Picts, Irish, and Cornish. They all spoke a variety of Celtic languages. In the 5th century AD, settlers from West Germany crossed over to Britain. These tribes were called Saxons, Jutes, and Angles, and set up kingdoms called East Anglia, West Saxon, East Saxon, etc. They spoke a dialect of the Germanic language, and this slowly evolved into the English we speak today. Old English. The language spoken by the Germanic settlers developed differently to the forms found in what is now known as Germany. This early form of English is known as Old English. Influences during the Old English period. Vikings invaders started arriving in northeast England in the 8th century. Parts of the Scandinavian language, which is closely related to Germanic languages too, including words describing family and animals, spread through northern England. These words were integrated into Old English, Middle English. When the Normans invaded in 1066, French became the dominant language of court, the church, and the nobility, while the rest of the country spoke versions of English. Gradually, English became more widely used by the educated upper classes, and by 1425, English was used universally again in speech and writing. However, it had changed completely since the Old English period and became known as Middle English. Features of Middle English. Grammar became much simpler, reflecting the way the two languages had to coexist. Inflections disappeared. All plurals ended n, es, or s. Middle English was heavily influenced by French lexemes, especially legal, religious, and administrative terms such as justice, jury, govern, and sovereign. Pronunciation was changing, with vowels becoming shorter. That is known as the Great Vowel Shift. For example, leaf became life and team became time. Thousands of Latin words found in French replaced Old English terms. An estimated 85% of Old English words fell out of use after the Viking and Norman invasions. Early Modern English. In 1476, William Caxton introduced the printing press to Britain. Many texts could now be mass-produced, which meant that there was a move towards standardization in how they were printed in terms of spelling and pronunciation. Many Greek and Latin texts were translated into English. Caxton chose the East Midlands, London, Oxford, Cambridge dialect to print works in. This soon became the most prestigious form of English. Features of early modern English. Word exploration brought words from African, Asian, and New World languages. A huge number of Latin, French, and Greek words entered the English language. Words were needed for new concepts like psychology. Shakespeare coined around 1700 new words such as courtship, excitement, and outbreak. Influence of Latin. More than half of our modern English vocabulary is Latinate, of Latin origin, for example, colossal, dignify, emotion, history. Most of our prefixes and suffixes come from Latin, for example, ante, post, pre, el, ate, ic. Late modern English. From 1700 onwards, English became more standardized and similar to the language we recognize today. In 1755, Samuel Johnson finished the first dictionary of English. Many writers have attempted this before, but his version was more comprehensive than ever before. In 1762, Robert Lowth published the first English grammar book, which laid out some of the fundamental rules for correct usage. During this time, many writers made attempts to define the lexicon and grammar of English. Latin was upheld as the ideal language and used as a model for English grammar, even though it had a very different structure. Rail travel, colonial expansion, the spread of literacy and mass production of the printed word extended everyone's access to a standard written form of English. The Industrial Revolution changed the way people worked and lived their lives, so new words were needed. English borrowed a huge number of words from all over the world. American English was becoming a language in its own right with its own rules and spelling. Modern developments. English is now a world language of communication. Electronic media like mobile phones and the internet have radically changed the way we communicate with each other. A more colloquial and casual style of language reflects major social changes. Estuary English, a southeastern dialect, has become widespread in UK. American English increasingly influences British English and English worldwide. Thank you for your attention. That's all for today.